All right, hey folks, this is Noah and John. We're coming to you from the Toy Factory with another edition of Card Shop Insiders. Today, John, who owns the local game store, is going to tell you why he doesn't sell pre-orders and what you should know before you make your choice on pre-orders or no. So, John, tell us a little bit about pre-orders and your thoughts.
All right. The pros and cons of accepting pre orders in the trading card business. I personally, as a store, I do not take pre orders any longer. And there's reasons for it. Uh, let me get to the pros of accepting pre orders. Guaranteed sales and cash revenue or cash flow. Pre orders provide upfront revenue, helping with cash flow and reducing financial risks before product release. That's number one. Number two, you could demand forecasting. Helps you to gauge interest in a product and order the right amount, reducing overstock or understock situations, which is a farce because there's no guarantees in life. Like there's no guarantees in how many of these items you're going to get of a hot item. So you could say, oh yeah, Mr. Distributor, I want 1,000 cases of this because I know I could sell 1,000 of them, and they're going to laugh at you because you may get 100 cases, you may get 10 cases. Everything is allocated nowadays, and it's allocated because of your past purchase power, I guess, for lack of a better term. The more you spend with a distributor on a specific item, product, whatever, the more you're going to be allocated. And that's a fair way of doing it. I can understand that. I have no problems with it.
Well, tell me this, John. Some other online retailers, they do their demand forecasting by subscribing to an alert about when the new set's going to release. Like that doesn't require anybody to put out any money, but it gives them an idea that 1,000 people want to know about this product, and they have some sort of metric where they discount that number down to actual buyers. So 300 people are actually going to buy based on that.
Yeah, but you don't know for sure how well that product is going to be. Because normally you have to order it a long time before the spoilers come out. You might have some idea, oh, these cards are going to come out on this. This set's going to be good. The internet said this set's going to be good. Do you believe everything you hear on the internet to be 100% factual? No. You'd be a damn fool if you did. So what you need to do is, think about it logically and say, I'm not going to order so many of these things. I'm going to be very cautious.
Yeah.
And that's what has kept me in business for 26 years, being cautious. You can overbuy, get stuck with a dog product, and then you have to sell it at a loss. Or in one instance, I've known, I repeat this a couple of times, the guy got so deep in debt that he had to sell his house to get out from under.
Yeah.
All right. So demand forecasting is
voodoo science.
You don't know what the hell's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, with the State of the Union quasi address tonight, things could change tomorrow. I don't know. So,
all right. Well, what do you say about people that think that selling pre-orders mean that you get commitment from your customers to buy the product in your store?
All right, you get commitment. All right, that's next on my list. Product or customer commitment. This locks in sales before the release, ensuring competitors can't snag those customers later. Yeah, that's true to a certain point. You got customers that shop around and they'll change their mind. They'll call you and say, "Hey, I want to pre-order this. I'll get you the money next week." And then what they'll do is they'll go to all the other competing stores in the area and they'll check their prices out. They won't even give you the courtesy to say, "Hey, I really don't want it."
Yeah.
And you got their name on a list with a question mark on it. Hopefully, you're going to get their money next week, but you may not get it because
right.
they're going to get it from XYZ store down the street. It happens all the time.
Okay.
All right.
What else you got?
Stronger supplier relationships.
John, hold on. I thought we were doing the positive part of
this is pros. I haven't gotten to the cons yet.
You haven't said a nice thing about pre-ordering yet.
I'm looking at the pros and I'm trying to drill holes in it because there's a lot of BS in here. Okay.
Okay. So these aren't your pros. This isn't like your opinion about why
No, this is
pre-orders are
a
good.
general consensus pros
Okay, so you did
of
some
the
research to
industry.
get
Of
these.
the industry.
Okay.
All right. Stronger supply, before you interrupted me, stronger supplier relationships. If you have a history of high pre order numbers, distributors and suppliers may prioritize your allocations for high demand products. What's the key word there?
May.
May. They're not going to, grant you absolution from the Pope to get this stuff. They're going to take care of their highest buying customers first. Or if you have a real good relationship with a few of them, they're going to take care of you to the best of their ability as a sales rep, not as a company, because the company, their sales managers are the ones that are doing the allocating.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might be able to find an extra box of this somewhere here or there because, a customer maybe couldn't afford to take 12 of them and they can only afford to take 10. And that happens all the time. Or they're on credit hold, so they're not getting anything.
Yeah.
All right, the next marketing hype and buzz. Pre orders can create excitement and urgency, making the product more exclusive or in demand. Duh, that's an obvious thing. I mean, if you think about it, and this is relating, I guess this subject came up because of Magic's Final Fantasy that's due out in June. Everybody and their brother has been calling the store, people that I've never heard of before because I look at the caller ID, asking if I'm taking pre-orders, and I go through my speech. No, I'm not doing it, especially if I've never seen you before because I don't need your business. I mean, I'm not that blunt,
Yeah.
but I come across that blunt.
You're pretty close to that blunt.
Yeah, you have to
I've
be.
heard the phone calls.
You have to be. Discount free sales. Many customers are willing to pay full price upfront for guaranteed access, so you might not need to offer discounts or promotions. Yeah, that's true. That's true. However, I don't offer discounts anyway.
Yeah.
I use the loyalties rewards program, which works well for my customer base. So they do take advantage of their loyalty rewards points when the product comes in. And when I was taking pre-orders, I wasn't taking a lot of them. I wasn't taking money up front either. I would foot the cost myself.
Well, we had a conversation about like how to take money up front. I think we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But that is one of the pros of doing pre-orders is you can take the money up front and know that you've got the money. Not in the idea that like you've made a list of people that might buy a box, but that you've actually got the payment from 10 people and they're going to all buy a box because they already did.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
You want me to get into the cons now?
Yeah. Tell us what cons could be considered cons,
All right.
and then your opinion.
Cons of accepting pre-orders. Supply chain uncertainty. Delays from manufacturers, distributors, or suppliers can lead to late deliveries and frustrate customers. Very true. Because
Yeah.
and you're dealing with shipping companies too, UPS and FedEx. Now, for instance, suppose you take a pre-order and it's a hot item and it's due to come in on or due to be released on Friday, which is typical for Magic. The product may get here on Wednesday, or it should get here on Wednesday. However, if the manufacturer doesn't send it to the distributor on time, the distributor is not going to get it out on time. And there's a possibility that it may not get here in time because UPS may have lost it. UPS may have a weather issue. They may have, mechanical failure on one of their planes that can't get up that day, and the product's sitting on the airplane. There's a whole bunch of domino effects that affect the supply chain. And somebody comes in and they expect their product on that Friday, and you don't have it, you're going to look bad, and they're going to want
Well,
their money back.
I mean, that's the thing is if they've prepaid, they may ask for a refund so they can go buy somewhere else. But that's a risk of
It's if they can get it someplace.
right. But I mean, hopefully, if you're hit with a supply chain problem, everybody in your area has the same problem.
No, it's not true.
No, but I'm saying that would be your hope.
That would be
Like
the
you would hope that it's like an ice storm that stops everybody from getting their
yeah.
delivery, not that you got the sick driver that day who just got subbed out for the other person and they didn't know your hours and so they just didn't drop off your stuff.
Oh, that's happened before
That's why I
too.
used it.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that's the ideal situation, but
Let's talk.
nothing.
Let's move on and talk about price volatility, John. What do you think about?
If the product's market value drops before release, customers may cancel orders or expect refunds. And this ties into the best practices that I have to minimize risks, which is toward the end of
Yep.
this dissertation. Uh, yeah, I mean the prices could go way up or it could go way down. People could
Well,
look at it and say, "Well, God, this product really sucks. I'm not going to buy it. I don't want it."
both of those are a risk for you as a seller, right? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you pre-sell at 150 bucks a box and it turns out that it's a really scarce product and it's worth 200 bucks a box, you're still making a profit, but you're not making all you could have. But then there's,
But then again, Noah, you get into that point where with your regular customers, you don't want to inflate the price to begin with.
yeah,
So, you got to.
well,
It's a fine line.
we just talked about that a few weeks ago with Pokemon, right? With the Prismatic Evolutions release that came out in January, there was a discussion because there were pre-sales on that in December, and some private sellers opened up pre-sales and sold at one price, and then when they realized that the market value was like double what they had it listed for, they canceled all their TCG player orders
Mm-hmm.
and then relisted all those things at double, and people were really mad about that.
I wonder if TCG took any action against them.
I don't know. I haven't heard.
They should have. They should have because that's. I mean, it's not a question of ethics,
It
but I
is.
guess no, it's not.
It
It's
is an
it's
ethics question.
moral. It's morally.
Morals and ethics are very the same thing.
Uh,
I mean, ethics is the application of moral principles to general life.
well, whatever. Is that lawyer talk?
It is. I mean,
Well,
but
you
I
have
do
to
think it's
live.
an
You
ethics
have to
question.
live with yourself.
Right. And as a seller, if you sell it at a certain price, even if you put it in like your policies, do you actually retain the right to like cancel the order? You do, really, because it's your thing and you don't have to ship it. But is there redress? Maybe.
This was happening with single sales when I was doing single sales because a lot of people would. I don't know if they were using bots or whatever the hell they were using, but they would, if a card accelerated in price, they would send an order in for every copy that I had. In one instance, card went from, I don't know, I forgot, was it $10 up to $40, and the guy wanted six of them. I canceled the order. He gave me an argument. I said, I don't care. You're not getting them. Because I felt like he sniped at it,
Yeah, I did.
and it wasn't one of my regular customers. If a regular customers had come in and wanted one copy or two copies, I would have sold it to them at the price that it was before it had accelerated, because that's good business policy. All
Yeah.
right, next on the list,
Yeah. What's next on the list?
risk of over promising. If you take too many pre-orders and can't fulfill them, all it can damage your reputation and lead to chargebacks on your credit card or negative reviews if
Well,
you're
that,
selling online, or
yeah.
if you're doing it in the store. If I have an unhappy customer, he's going to tell 10 people that I screwed him over, and it, yeah, you're going to get
So
negative reviews.
one comment I've got so far on the possible cons that we're going through, all three of these have been like possibles. Like it's possible that your supply chain can get screwed up. It's possible that the price changes. It's possible that you don't get everything. So, do some of these other ones have a more tangible, like this is always a negative of offering a pre-order?
Let me see.
Yes.
Price volatility.
I mean,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, because that happens all the time.
Well, it does change. I mean, the next one you've got on your list is fraud and chargebacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's also a kind of a speculative one. It's like people could do that, or I think to some degree you have people that you can know that even if you have 10 pre-orders, you might only sell 8 of those. Like if they're not having to pay in advance. But if they are paying in advance, you still might only sell 8 or 9 because 2 people might change their mind before it comes out.
It's true.
But
It's true. Well, all right. The next is again getting back to your fraud, and so you read ahead. I'm not going to send you the damn notes in
John,
advance anymore.
to be fair, I'm trying to help us flow. I just want you to say the fraud and chargeback part.
All right. Some buyers may cancel. Yeah, go. I can't tell you what I want to tell you. Most buyers may cancel or dispute their payment after receiving the product, putting you at financial risk.
Yeah.
And if they do it with me, I had one guy that argued with me about something. I gave his money. I told him, don't come back. Never. I don't care.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. That's when I was testy.
When you were young and testy.
That's when I was testy. Capital lockup.
Yeah, let's talk about that. This is one of those.
Yeah, I'll let you. After I read a little bit, I'll let you go into it. All right.
Tell me about it.
All right. If funds are tied to pre-orders, you may have less flexibility to invest in other inventory or business needs. Now, we had a discussion off camera last week talking about a lot of people take their pre-order money and they pay for the product. And then if they have to return money, they don't have it. Now it's your turn.
Well, I mean, I think this may be part of the discussion for best practices in a second, but like there's really 2 ways to treat paid pre-orders, right? You can either take the money as if you've already earned it because they've paid you, and you can spend it to pay your rent, or you can spend it to buy other products, because you may be pre-selling like 2 or 3 months in advance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the other option that you have is you can take that money and you can set it aside and you can earmark it for this product so that when, it comes out in 2 months, you have the money sitting there to pay for it. And
if you're disciplined enough to put that money safely aside,
well,
you can't get your little fingers on it.
Right. But I think those are the 2 real options that you have. And I think, like, we talked about some people on the internet that I've watched their content and talked about, and they follow this advice where it's like, don't spend the money until you're actually buying the thing. So, let's talk this week. There's Lorcana set release, right? So when the Lorcana set is announced several months ago, you could pre-sell boxes of it and say, if you want boxes of it, they're $185, whatever they are.
I wish, but no, not even close.
But I mean, so let's say you pre-sell them at like $150 because it's an easy number to do math with, and you're like, I sell 10 of those. You got $1,500 sitting there. That means that when it's time to buy your Lorcana, which is like this week, mm-hmm. right? So you talk to your distributor. They're like, how much do you want? And you're like, well, I've got $1,500 worth of pre-orders. I would like to buy $1,500 worth of the new set. That way you've already got the money. You can pay for it and it comes in. And then you got to give 10 of those boxes away. But you've got the money. You didn't come off of your credit card. You didn't come out of pocket.
It's true. But you have to be disciplined enough to do so.
Yeah, you have to not spend the money.
Right. And if you don't, it's too tempting. If it's in a different account. I know a lot of stores do that. They put it into a different account that they don't touch it. However, in my instance, it's too much of a hassle to do it. I don't want to go through. I hate doing my income taxes. I'm not going to be sitting around, figuring out pre-orders and all this stuff and collecting the money. And one guy said, well, how much is it? $200. I can give you $20 now, and I'll give you $10 a week for until it comes in. Well, that's not going to work because damn well that $20 is not going to go into that special account. It's going to go into the register, and then it's going to get lost. And then halfway through it, he's going to say, well, I got $60 invested. I decided I don't want it. That happens a lot. And that's why this boy doesn't do pre-orders anymore. Point blank.
Well, I think that's the position we advertised on the video is John doesn't do pre-orders. So Do you want to talk about market uncertainty as your last point on the cons before we talk about your best
Yeah,
practices?
I mean, market uncertainty. Hype around a product can die down before release, leading to cancellations and stuck inventory if customers change their minds. But there's ways of minimizing that risk, and that's what I'm going to segue into the next
Tell us about it.
segment.
Do it.
Best practices to minimize risks.
Now,
Set clear. Go
for,
ahead.
for clarity,
Yep.
are these your best practices? Is this you're endorsing these as the best
No, this is
practices?
general rule of thumb.
Okay, so this is researched other advice.
Right.
We're still not to
And I'll tell
Jones.
you what because it doesn't matter because I don't do it. So,
Okay,
all right. Set clear policies. When I did do it, yeah, I had clear cut policies
in writing.
in writing
The
up front.
lawyer on this podcast
Yeah, but
will endorse the idea of having a written pre-sale policy.
all right, if the person doesn't sign the agreement,
What do you mean?
is it legal?
It depends on what state you're in.
All right, so if I put in all pre-orders, uh, must be paid for in advance or a final, is that legal?
Where did on your website?
On the website, store in
Did
the,
they?
a
It
sign
depends.
in the store?
So, not giving legal advice to you people on the internet, but the idea is that where they do the transaction also matters. So, if it's on your website and you have written policies that are out there, then they have agreed to the policies. If you have the policy on the store counter and they come in and they read, you say, okay, if you're going to buy Magic on pre-sale, those are the pre-sale policies. Please read them. And then after you've read it, we're going to do the transaction. So they read it and they pay you still. Yes, they've agreed to it.
They don't have to sign anything.
That's an oral contract.
How could you prove it?
You have video footage of them reading the document.
It cancels out every 2 weeks.
Yeah, but you know better. I mean, if you wanted to save the footage because you think someone's going to be sketchy, you could.
That's why this boy doesn't do pre-orders. Too much of a hassle.
Hassles. This is what it's
Hassle.
about.
All right. Again, getting back to the clear-cut policies, outline upfront refund or possible refund, cancellation, and delay policies, which is very important.
Yep.
All right. Limit pre-order quantities. Don't overextend by taking unlimited orders. Cap them based on realistic supply estimates. That's kind of hard to do too. And now again with Pokemon, I'm sure when the new set what's it coming out the 28th of this month or something like that. I haven't gotten any calls yet, which I'm kind of surprised. I'm sure I'm going to get people call and say, "You getting the new boxes in? I want 2 boxes." No, I told you the last week's episode that I'm not selling boxes. I'm breaking them down, selling them by the packs only.
Yeah.
So again,
we talked about the reason for that though, because of your expected allocation. So if you know that you're going to be allocated 10 boxes, like you can kind of reasonably set aside what you're going to sell as a box and what you're going to sell as a pack.
But there's no guarantee that allocation is going to remain true. Now, the allocation, all right, say the distributor said, all right, you're going to get 10. We're going to guarantee you 10. However, Pokemon Company sends Southern Hobby half their order 1 week. So, and it's happened before. You get 5.
Yeah.
So then you have 5 that are people that are paid, that are waiting for their stuff. They're going to bitch and moan and say, when is it? When, well, the distributor didn't get it. Pokemon screwed up. No, they're not going to believe that. They're going to believe that you screwed up.
No, and maybe 20 years ago, but today it's all on the internet, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, you make one Reddit post and then 52 other stores are like, oh, yeah, we had the same problem. We got half. And then everybody's like, everybody got half. And then everybody's like, wait a second. These are worth double.
Well, how come you got your box, but you didn't get your box?
First come, first serve?
Well,
Noah came, then first come, first serve. All right, what else we got?
Secure, reliable suppliers. Work with trustworthy distributors to ensure timely fulfillment. I have some distributors that are great to deal with and some that I'm not going to name again because it's like beating a dead horse that I really despise dealing with. And I'm not going to I'm not going to bring them down,
No,
and I get with them. I get from them as
you just bought
little.
stuff from them.
Pardon?
You just bought stuff from
Well,
them.
marginally. Uh, I'll deal with them as marginally as possible. Let's put
Absolutely.
it that
They're
way.
the third person you go to when you can't get it from somewhere else.
All right. Consider deposits instead of full payment. Taking partial payments can reduce chargebacks and cancellations.
Eh,
I don't know if that's a good idea either.
I don't
I
know that
want
I would.
money up front.
Yeah,
If
I
I
don't
was
think I
a
endorse that. If
yeah,
you're going to take money on a pre-sale, you take all the money on a pre-sale.
right.
If you tell me like for $10 I can reserve my box of the next Pokemon set, like I'm willing to give you $10, and then I'm also willing to be like, yeah, I don't want to drive over to Hillsboro and pick up my box, so I'm out $10, but John's out $100 because he had to buy the whole box.
Well, what you can do if you're going to do something like that is take 50% up front and say it's non-refundable.
I I think that's a reasonable thing. I also don't think it's unreasonable to have non-refundable full pre-orders. Like if you're gonna buy it, buy it. I'm not gonna gouge you on the price. I'm gonna charge you reasonable MSRP ish.
Do you realize how many people think they could put it over on you?
Yeah.
And they'll try every single opportunity
Oh,
to do
absolutely.
so.
How many people want to report a fraud charge when they don't like your policy?
I agree. I
Right?
agree.
And then what are you gonna do? Are you gonna spend all of your time? Do you know how many hours it takes to argue about a fraud charge with the credit card company? Like, because they take your money first.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't play with that. They're like, oh, the customer said it was a fraud charge. We took the money back. And you're like, well, but it wasn't. I've got this receipt. Like you have all your signed receipts, right?
Yep.
So you got to dig in the box, go find it, because paperwork's your favorite thing.
Yes.
And then you can scan that and send it to them. And then they send you another question, and then you answer it, and then you answer another one, and another one. And then maybe someday they give you your money back. Or you just don't get it. So no pre-sale because you don't want to worry about the refund request.
I agree. I agree.
All right, what's the last one?
All right. The last one on my list is stay transparent. Communicate with customers if delays or changes occur to maintain trust. Yeah, I mean, if it's somebody you've dealt with for a long time, they're going to believe you. But if it's somebody that just came off the street that put in a pre-order, they're going to think you're running a scam on them. I mean, there's too many scams going on in this world right now, and there's too much distrust out there.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, if somebody has walked into this store and they think you're running a scam, like they are ignorant. You have 6 displays of cards on the wall. You've got 3 walls of product all over the store. Like you've got thousands of cards for sale. Like you run events all the time. Like it's not a scam if you've pre-sold Pokemon boxes and you get half and you send out an email that says, when you signed up, I gave you your number. Numbers 1 through 8 get boxes. Numbers 9 through 20. Right now, I don't have a box for you. In 3 weeks, I might have boxes for you. I'll let you know. Have a good day. Bye. Like they can't come in and be like, you're a fraud. You're tricking me. And you're like, no, dude, I'm still running a store.
Now they're still going to complain.
They will complain, but they have to pick something else to complain about because it's not like you just like packed up shop and disappeared.
No,
It's not like an internet pre-order. Like I can start an internet store tomorrow that's like Pokepacks.com, and I can pre-sell the next Pokemon set for tens of thousands of dollars, and then like those people come in and I call up distribution and I'm like, hey, I'm a new store. I want to get $10,000 worth of the next Pokemon set. And they're like, haha, John,
good luck.
who's been buying for 26 years,
Right.
gets 2 boxes. So you can have like a box if he doesn't buy both of his.
Right. That's exactly what happens.
And so then I'm like, what do? Shut down your website and disappear? That's the scam artist. That's what scam people do.
You got that pretty well figured out.
I'm a lawyer. I see all the bad things.
No. Do you have that in your projected future?
No. Let's be clear.
Is that why you got the black eye? Uncle Louis catch up
I was
to you?
collecting for you.
Yeah, Uncle Louis caught up to you. Huh?
Yeah. That's what happened.
Yeah. Got any other things? I mean, what
I think,
My views are my views, and
yeah,
I've chosen not to do pre-orders anymore. Again, I'm too damn old to go through all that hassle. There's just too many uncertainties that surround it for me, and I don't need that hassle.
I think there's merits to both sides of the argument. I think that if you do pre-orders right, it can help you, especially an early business. Like one of the things I think we need to remind people of is you've been doing this for 26 years. You don't need a pre-sale to know that you're going to sell most of what you buy.
Sure,
You've preached for months on this show that you buy based on historic buying patterns that you know because you were there.
it's up here.
Right.
It's not even
But
on paper anymore.
but
It's up here.
a new store owner that's opening their business and listening to our podcast might want to know if they should do a pre-order. And if they're going to do pre-orders right and they're not going to mortgage their like money on like pre-orders for sets 3 months out to pay this month's rent, that's a bad idea. We strongly would recommend not doing that. If you're going to take a pre-order, get paid in full, keep the money until it's time to buy the product, and then fulfill the pre-orders with lots of open communication, right? Think about your policies, first come, first serve, things like that. Don't play favorites. If you only get 15 boxes and you only had 16 people that wanted them, you know, don't pick the most annoying person to not get it. Go first come, first serve. Like last guy in.
I'd pick the most annoying person and drop them off the damn list.
I'm aware, but you've run your store for 26 years. The advice for a new store would be treat people the
Yeah.
same.
Well, you got to build up credibility.
You also,
You
yeah,
know, and that's really what it boils down to.
yeah.
I'd be interested. I know Michael in Tennessee listens to the podcast, and I'd be interested to see what he's going to be doing as a new store.
Yeah.
And,
Do you do pre-orders?
Yep.
Is it cool? All right. Any other thoughts on pre-orders from you?
That's it for today there, Noah.
All right. Do we want to close the podcast or do we want to do the rest on Patreons?
But the news, the three E's.
You got E's today?
I've got E's, but it's one big E.
All right. Let's E on the
We're
podcast.
going to enunciate it.
All right, folks. For those of you that are new to our Card Shop Insider episodes, John and I like to share non-card shop related insight to brighten your day. And if you've made it this far on the podcast, listen for a second to John expound on how he can educate, enlighten, or entertain you.
All right. Normally, it's a short segment on something that's happening right now, or something. Maybe it's a Snapple caption or something like that. Tonight, our president is going to be doing an address to joint sessions of Congress, and it's a tradition of vision and leadership. Now, it's not a traditional State of the Union address that the president does every year to let the nation know what's the current state of the union, or what's going on in our country. When a newly inaugurated president, even though he was president number 45, he's number 47, Donald Trump, delivers their first speech before both houses of Congress, it is a significant moment in American political history. However, unlike the State of the Union address, which is constitutionally mandated and traditionally delivered annually, a president's first year speech to Congress is not considered a formal State of the Union. Instead, it is an address to a joint session of Congress, a platform for the new leader to set the tone for their presidency, outline their legislative priorities, and appeal to lawmakers and the American public. So that's what's going to happen tonight. It's not a State of the Union address as it typically is. Let me see. It started. Let me see if this is important. It's not. Again, I'm going to repeat myself. Why it's not a State of the Union address? The U.S. Constitutional Article 2, Section 3 requires the president to provide Congress with information on the State of the Union. However, a newly elected president does not deliver a traditional State of the Union address in their first year because they've just taken office and do not yet have a full year's record of governments to report. Instead, this address introduces the new administration's policies and vision. That could change tonight. It depends on what he's going to say. Let me see. What they're hoping that it would entail is key themes and purposes of the speech. Set the administration's agenda, unite the country, boost public confidence, shape public opinion, demonstrate leadership. And this article that I printed out had some of the most lasting impacts on American politics from several first-year joint session addresses. One from Joe Biden, delivered during the pandemic. Biden emphasized economic recovery, infrastructure investment, and the importance of democracy. Donald Trump, back in 2017, on February 28th, focused on immigration, job creation, and healthcare reform. Trump's speech was one of the most measured and traditional presidential addresses. And then going back, let me see, February 27th, 2001, that's George W. Bush. Early in his presidency, Bush prioritized tax cuts, education reform, and strengthening national defense. And this is one I think is good. Ronald Reagan, back in 1981, in one of the most impactful first-year addresses, Reagan strongly advocated for tax cuts, reducing government spending, and bolstering the economy. So that's what we're going to expect tonight. I just tried to make the explanation of what this speech is regarding in relation to a traditional State of the Union address.
Makes sense. Appreciate it. All right. Any other thoughts before we do our closing?
No, we're good.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us this week on Card Shop Insiders. I hope you've learned a little bit about pre-orders and what you can do in your store to either pre-sell or not, and why John doesn't pre-sell products. If you found any value from this video or the other videos we've made, please give us a thumbs up or a like on YouTube. Please follow and subscribe to us on that platform as well as on the other platforms where you can find our podcast content. Also, we do have a Patreon available if you'd like to support the show in another way. And we'd like to thank our patrons, Ben, Grant, Brandon, Logan, Traden, Jake, Brian, and Michael. Thank you for supporting our efforts on Patreon. And if you'd like to join them on Patreon, you can have access to a behind-the-scenes discussion that occurs before and after our podcast and video recording sessions, as well as recently, as recent as today, John and I have decided to move our discussion of TCG news all to the Patreon content. So that's where you'll get the Patreon discussion about news. So, or any discussion about
it's an added
news.
Benefit to them.
So today's discussion, we'll forecast if you're interested, is going to include some of the new release information about upcoming sets in the month of March, as well as some of the future sets for Magic the Gathering that have been spoiled and released in the last week. So join us there if you'd like some of those details and to hear John's thoughts on future sets. Otherwise, we thank you for listening and look forward to having you next time.
I'm not finished yet. You told me before we started that we had a guy that thumbed down on our videos.
Yeah, 2 in a row.
2 in a row. All right. If you don't like the videos, that's fine. But do me a favor and leave something in the comments to let us know why you thumbed us down, because we're only going to get better if we know what we're doing wrong or if there's information that you disagree with. So please, don't hide behind just a thumbs down. Put some comments in there and help us out. That's all I have to say.
If you're still watching, Negative Nancy.
If you're still watching, yeah.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end. All right. We're going to cut here. Adios.
Bye, guys.